All right, welcome into the Lineup Fantasy Football Show. I'm Mitch Anderson.
I'm Justin Mello.
And both of us are working off of about 6 hours of sleep right now after going to Gillette Stadium last night to watch the Patriots-Chargers game. We're going to get into that game and every single game from Super Wildcard Weekend. But before we jump into things, make sure to drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to be notified every time we drop a brand new episode. Without further ado, let's get into our instant reaction from Super Wildcard Weekend. All right, game one. We are taking a look at the Rams, Panthers, 34-31. Both our picks was the Rams. Give me your initial thoughts on the game.
Game was much better, much more exciting as a viewer than I was expecting, which after the first few minutes, I didn't think would be the case. It felt like it was so over so early. The Rams scoring like 4 minutes into the game, not even starting with the ball. But it became a good game. I'm curious how much the hand has affected Stafford, was affecting him in this game, how much it could going forward. He seemed a little bit off. I mean, he had a stretch where he was like 2 of 13 in this game or something like that. Shout out to Cokeheads. That was super exciting. And the Panthers probably weren't going to win this game, but the fact that they had a chance and that game management in the last drive was so horrible, it was kind of like hard to watch as a fan. That was pretty criminal game management down the stretch, but great game overall.
Yeah, I would say my big note from this game was like, what a disastrous end to the first half for the Rams. Going forward on that 4th and 3, I get being aggressive in the playoffs, but like you just didn't need to. And then obviously Puka's drop, which you texted like 1 in 500 chance that was going to happen. My only other note, that hit on Devontae Adams was insane. I literally got flashback to the Emmanuel Sanders hit where like coming down the sideline and he just got railroaded.
I was shocked that he was good to go after that. I mean, thankfully
Me too. He was back like 3 plays later.
That seemed like he was done for maybe the season, but I'm glad he was good to go.
They got him in the blue tent, gave him a little something. He was back out there.
Yeah, they're like, it's playoffs. You're fine. Just get it.
Yeah. My best moment of this game was easily the Parkinson touchdown. I mean, I think like you said, like I never like fully thought the the Panthers were gonna win it. But like you look at that, Stafford's gonna Stafford. They figured it out. But like what an unbelievable ball and what an unbelievable catch by Parkinson.
Yeah, that was a crazy play. Like you said, unbelievable ball. And then Parkinson's ability to come down with that, with the defender all over him, and then keep the feet in bounds and score was incredible. I think the only play before that I sort of had as my best play of the game was just the block punt.
Yep.
Because that was awesome and obviously a game-changing play.
What surprised you? For me, it was, I mean, I love Jalen Coker. I was about to say I'm a cokehead, but I'm not going to put that on tape. I love Jalen Coker. I think he's awesome, but like even as a believer, he surprised me. He was incredible.
Yeah, he was awesome. That was definitely one of the big surprises of the game. For me, it was just the Panthers in general hanging in this. I know last episode we talked about, we felt super confident in the Rams to win comfortably. Shout out the Panthers. They really played well. Maybe it wasn't just a fluke that they won that game earlier this season against the Rams because they were right in it. And then the only other surprise we talked about was just the Puka drop. If he hadn't dropped that would have been like full nuclear status on the day for him.
Oh my God.
Because he already had like an insane day, but
I believe 34.5 points.
Yeah.
And if you look at his like unrealized fantasy points, it was probably closer to like 45.
Oh, 100%. If he had caught that, like you have him in DFS, you have him in best ball, like you're just winning. That's just like, especially in a playoff game where there's fewer players in the slate, like that would have just been mic drop, but still a great day from Puka.
That game was like the perfect NFL is king. This is the one game where I think one team doesn't have a chance and it's riveting and it's exciting and you're like, fuck yeah. Like we just kicked it off with that game. What did you take away from this one though?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, I'm curious to see if the Stafford hand injury like actually becomes anything going forward. Regardless, I think the Rams definitely are a contender, which we've all thought, but maybe they're not like the top contender that we sort of make them out to be, at least a lot of us do. I think there's sort of a narrative or a sense that the Rams are maybe the best team in the NFL. And despite being a wild card team, maybe the favorite, but I think we might need to walk that back a little bit. They are vulnerable. They're a great team, but they're super beatable.
Yeah, this defense is a problem. I had convinced myself we were going to hit the postseason. They were going to lock in. Just thought, like, they're down the stretch and they're having a few rough games, but postseason football, this defense is going to figure it out. They've now allowed 28.3 points per game since week 13. Like, I know you've got Matthew Stafford, potentially the MVP. I know you've got a high-powered offense, but, like, if you're letting up 28 points a game, eventually you're going to slip. And we've seen Stafford slip a few times. We saw it back in the Panthers game the first time around. So I completely agree with you, as I had them in my Super Bowl. And I think I still stand with that take, but it's a little more nerve-wracking right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Let's move on to the second game, the 8 p.m. game of Saturday. This one was awesome. Bears beat Packers. I had Bears, you had Packers, but you also had Jayden Reed.
Yeah, felt good about Jayden Reed. It was nice to see him catch a touchdown. Honestly, I could have said any Packers receiver and claimed I was right, though, because, I mean, they were cooking offensively in the passing game.
Yeah, but which one was going to make you throw up in your mouth the most? It was easily Jayden Reed, so I got to give you credit for taking that pick.
I'll take that. And it felt good to get that sort of moral victory. And it felt really good about my Packers pick, too. Like, for the majority of the game, 21-3, I was like, all right, good pick. Yeah, and then it all crumbled from there. But great game again. We were really spoiled this weekend with some great games.
My initial thoughts on this game is that nobody knows how to fire me up for the NFL postseason quite like 81-year-old Al Michaels. Al Michaels is like, I went from like hating on him so much, almost being impressed by like his ridiculousness. It was like 5 minutes into the game, and there was like an end around, I think, to Cole Kmet, and he was going to try to pass it, and Al Michaels is like, Colston Loveland's got the ball. Colston Loveland's got the ball. And then he realizes it's Cole Kmet, and he just starts screaming Cole Kmet's name. He just starts going, Cole Kmet, Cole Kmet. I was like, this is like prime Al Michaels. Like, this is the type of stuff I'm going to be missing when he's like in a home next year. The only other thing, and they mentioned on the broadcast, where the fuck did this Iceman nickname come from for Caleb Williams?
I've never, as somebody who is like concerningly tapped into the NFL, I've never heard Caleb Williams called Iceman ever.
I'll say two things on it. One, it sounds like the type of nickname that appears on like Pro Football Reference when you're like, well, nobody calls him that, but it's just like there.
Yeah.
My second thought is like, God damn it. I was like taking notes about how much I hated that nickname at halftime, and then he had ice in his veins, and I'm like, is he the Iceman?
Maybe he is.
He might be the Iceman.
But you're right. Like at halftime, you know what would have happened is if the second half went how the first half did, we would always call Caleb Williams Iceman, like ironically. Yes, yeah. Exactly. Like how we called JJ McCarthy 9, which by the way, I was fully expecting to see so many Caleb Williams 9 memes on the internet.
The Photoshop demons must have been so fucking pissed.
Yeah, they were working hard. Ready. They were so ready. And they're like, shit, now I got to make one of Matt LaFleur, which is what I saw everywhere.
It's like Bleacher Report when they post their like graveyard of unused graphics, and it'll be like the Chiefs 3-peat thing, and it's like Caleb Williams is 9. What did you have for thoughts on the game that actually matter other than me making fun of Al Michaels?
No, I'm glad you brought up Al Michaels. There was another point in that game, by the way. I think it was like Colston Loveland or something had a pass broken up, and Al Michaels was like, a drop! And it was just blatantly not a drop. One of the greatest to ever do it, but it is far overdue for him to hang him up. But other thoughts on the game? Ben Johnson has a huge pair of balls. Some might say too big. Some of those fourth down decisions were kind of crazy. I'm all for being aggressive, by the way. Like, I'm very much a believer to be aggressive and go for it on fourth more. Some of those were super questionable decisions in the first half.
I came in here making fun of the Rams for that 4th and 3 call. Meanwhile, Ben Johnson's like, fuck it, 4th and 25, let's just do it.
Yeah, he was fading the analytics, which the analytics a lot of the time are like,
when does the analytics say to punt it?
Right.
Like have you ever seen that?
Like, I guess I did the other night. Like, they were in their own territory. It was like 4th and medium, and Ben Johnson was like, I don't care. I'm going to go for it. And of course, it didn't work out until it did in the second half. But that was my first takeaway from the game. The second one is Packers with 4 different receivers scoring touchdowns. I don't know if they've done that in years, especially they have so many different guys, but I wouldn't say their receiving corps is necessarily a strength of the team, but it certainly seemed like it on Saturday. And then just a last note, Caleb was great down the stretch. Obviously, they came back and it was incredible. Caleb went 10 for 21 in the fourth quarter, and that was enough to get it done. Now, granted, 10 completions is a good amount for a quarter. It's kind of crazy he threw the ball 21 times, and I think those 10 completions went for like 180-something yards, so he definitely made them count. But if you told me he completed under 50% of his passes in the fourth quarter, I would think there is no way in hell they were winning that game, but they did.
It really felt like a microcosm of like exactly what we worry about with Caleb Williams, which is we've got the fourth down to Roma Dunze. Here's Caleb Williams, like this generational talent. Then you look at the accuracy issues overall when you zoom out, and there's still so many question marks with him.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing to give him credit for, which may play into some of those incompletions, is he is doing a much better job this year of throwing the ball away when there's pressure.
Right.
Last year, and at times this year, he'll hold it way too long. He'll try to make something happen, and then he takes an 18-yard sack.
Turns his back to the defense, and next thing you know, it's like he's running backwards like 4 yards.
Yep, exactly. But there were a lot of times in this game, multiple that I saw, that he was able to sense the pressure, just throw it away, live to see another down, and that's how you extend drives. So credit to him there.
100%. Let's get into our best moment of the game. I had the Matthew Golden touchdown. Never wrong, just early for all you sickos, best ball sickos that love Matthew Golden over the offseason. That was sick. That was a really cool touchdown.
That there were like 3 different points on that one play that I was like, all right, well, he's going to get tackled here. And then he just didn't. So
it's that in the Roma Dunze throw, but I figured I was going to be talking about it earlier in the segment anyway. So I was like, I'll give a little love to Matthew Golden too.
Yeah, that was an incredible play. We can't go into this offseason saying he's never scored a touchdown. Granted, it was the postseason. My favorite play, though, was the Darian Kinnard screen pass, rumble, and fumble. That play was awesome. It had everything. I love when a big man catches the ball. He was breaking tackles. Then he fumbles it. It got like punted like another 10 yards down the field. That play was just awesome.
I think that was the play where, as somebody who had Chicago in it, I was like, oh, Chicago's done, because you just got gifted this fumble and they still didn't come up with it. And I feel like looking back, I'm like, it's even more incredible that they won, because when you give up like in a postseason game, a fumble in your lap and you don't get it there, like while you're trying to make a comeback, it's like so rare that they still pull it off.
That was one of 3 fumbles that I counted, at least, that Green Bay had that Chicago did not recover. It was that one, Christian Watson at the goal line. I mean, that was almost a touchback. And then the kick return, Josh Jacobs. Bears didn't get on any of the 3, and they still won the game.
Yeah, crazy. What surprised you from this game?
I mean, the game in general, the second half comeback, the 3 fumbles that we just talked about. But my biggest note from the first half, which was shocking, was just how comfortable Jordan Love was. I mean, he was like in a rhythm, unstoppable, honestly, for parts of the second half as well, but more particularly the first half. I mean, it just seemed effortless for the Packers offense. It's crazy the Bears were able to turn around. And then just shout out Dennis Allen, the Bears defensive coordinator. I think the second half of this game especially was a reminder why he's been a head coach in this league multiple times. Obviously, the first half was a disaster, but he changed things up, made Jordan Love a little bit more uncomfortable in the second half, and that was one of the keys to victory. So shout out Dennis Allen.
I had pretty much the same thing. Just the game in general, the fumbles. I had Ben Johnson, all the fourth down tries. Like, I think all of that was all I found shocking from this one. My takeaways here is, I talked about this a couple minutes ago, but like, I still find Caleb Williams so hard to pin down. I think this was awesome, but he looks awful in the first half, comes back with the magic in the second half. But even then, like, his problem this season is he's 32 among 32 in accuracy and completion percentage. Like, and it was still an issue tonight. And then my other one was, we talked about him a good amount last episode. Like, Colston Loveland breakout is fully here. We're going to talk about him in another segment right at the end of this episode, but the Tyler Warren truthers had their laughs at the beginning of the season, and now the Loveland gang is just rising up.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to our third game, the 1 p.m. on Sunday, Bills Jaguars. Our picks, I had the Jaguars and Parker Washington, which that worked out. not the Jaguars part. You had the Bills and Josh Allen going full Superman, which was a clean sweep on this game. So give me your initial thoughts.
Yeah, another great game. Great call in Parker Washington. I was a little worried. First half was quiet for him. Concussion potentially. And then he just went like nuclear the rest of the way.
Parker Washington only needs one half.
He only needs one. He's that good. Crazy game by him. And that actually kind of is a good transition to one of my takeaways, which was the Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown was great to see. This year was obviously super frustrating for him. So it's good to see him score the first touchdown of the game. Well, my question is, could that have been his last touchdown as a Jacksonville Jaguar? Because with the breakout of Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers is clearly a big part of the offense. They extended him already. Travis Hunter's going to be back. I assume they'll still continue to try to use him at receiver. Brian Thomas seems like he might not be on this team next year.
I think if they can get a decent value for him, I think this is a fantastic take. That wide receiver room is so crowded, and it's not crowded out of necessity. It's like crowded out of talent. And this year, Brian Thomas did not look talented.
No, he did not. And there were rumors around the trade deadline, and I think there's a lot of teams out there that would definitely be willing to take the risk on him because we saw the talent at LSU. We saw the talent his rookie year. And it's really not much of a need for the Jags, so I could definitely see him getting moved. Other takeaways from the game, Josh Allen is like beat the hell up. Yeah. Like I'm ready to see the injury report this week and just have it be like 5 different things listed. I mean, he is like
the Josh Allen on Josh Allen violence was crazy.
It was crazy.
He was getting after him.
I like there was that one sack. I think it was either late second half or late first half or early second half. Josh Allen just got so clean off the line and just brutally I won't say shoved him and, drove him into the ground, but I mean, it was a vicious hit. And I didn't even know how to react except I just audibly said, I was like, Josh Allen, Josh Allen, Josh Allen, Josh Allen. I didn't even know what I was saying.
You were Al Michaels when he realized it wasn't Colston Loveland.
Yeah,
and you started screaming Cole Kmet.
I actually could do Al Michaels' job. That play is evidence of that. And then the only other thing I wrote down for this game is just what a game again. 3 for 3 at this point in great games.
Man, I loved how last episode, I felt like I was laying out this blueprint for why the Jaguars are the better team, why they were going to win. And you were like, well, Josh Allen. And you were right. You just trumped my entire argument. My initial thoughts of this game, since we're on the broadcasting conversation with Al Michaels, I want to give Romo his credit because that game started and something about Jim Nantz and Tony Romo that you're like, okay, we're in a playoff game. They set the atmosphere so well. I think CBS does such a great job with the broadcast. And then Tony Romo actually opens his mouth and I want to kill myself. When Brenton Strange caught a pass and he goes, how strange, huh, Jim? I low-key was about to mute my TV.
Yeah, Tony is the very best and the very worst color commentator at the same time. He does have very good insight and he's very good at explaining what happened and why it happened. But then he just says certain things and sometimes they're not even words. Sometimes they're just noises.
He gave a great vintage, Jim.
I am a sucker for the Jim, but
it was well timed. I believe it was during the Trevor Lawrence failed 4th down conversion, which that could have used an Jim more than any other moment in the game. My only other note is I love a ball don't lie moment, and that Cam Little field goal was just so perfect.
Yeah, that I was not sure. I was did they really get the snap off? I don't know. And then Cam Little missed it. I was like, oh no, they didn't. That's
karma.
That's football divine intervention right there.
Couldn't agree more. I think we have the same best moment. Well, I had 2. You tell me which one you thought was better. The Brandon Cooks catch was awesome. And then the Josh Allen longest tush push I've ever seen.
Yeah, those are my 2 as well. Those are definitely the 2 best plays of the game. I'll give it to the tush push just because I think that's literally the furthest I've ever seen a player pushed in a pile. There was an Ezekiel Elliott play. If he had scored,
it would have been no competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was probably the furthest. Part of me actually wonders, though, because you saw the next play, it looks like the Jaguars kind of let them score, which I do think was probably the right decision. Toward the end of that play, it almost looked like Jaguars players weren't even pushing back. Part of me wonders if they just during the play were all right, let's just let them in at this point so we have time.
I wouldn't have been shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, sick play regardless.
I completely agree. What surprised me from this game, out the gate, the physicality. Like, what a fired up. Talk about another aspect of this that made you feel like, okay, I'm watching playoff football. Like, two physical teams during the season, but the way the Jaguars came out, like, give Liam Cohen his credit. I know they lost, but like, he had his guys fired up today.
Oh, absolutely. Both these teams looked really good. Like, they looked like they were ready for playoff football. And that was a big part of the reason it was such a great game. I was surprised how much these offenses struggled early. Mm-hmm. Jags defense has been great all year. The Bills defense, not as much, but I did think we'd see some offensive fireworks. It was a slow start. Both offenses eventually got it going. But also just a little surprised by Trevor Lawrence, this kind of roller coaster game where, I mean, he had been one of the hottest quarterbacks in football at the end of the regular season. And we saw flashes again today or yesterday where he was great. He was making plays with his legs. He made high difficulty throws. But then there were plays where missing guys and making bad decisions, holding the ball too long. I mean, the pick at the end of the game, obviously kind of desperation, not necessarily the worst play by him, but, you know, definitely not what you'd like to see out of him. So that was kind of a roller coaster.
Yeah. My takeaways from this game, I get it now. You win. I don't care who's better, who's worse. If it's Josh Allen, they're always going to have a chance. Do you think that on either of Trevor Lawrence's interceptions, he was distracted thinking about getting squatted again at a bar?
I think that's the only logical explanation.
Yeah, that had to be on his mind on that last one because I don't know what he was seeing.
I rewatched that video yesterday. Hilarious.
His reaction to it in the presser was like so funny too. Like he was like trying not to laugh, but you could tell he definitely got like chewed out by Liam Cohen for being like a distraction. And he's like, I didn't know that you would just get filmed doing stuff like that nowadays. Like, yeah, dude, when you're like 6'6" in Jacksonville, Florida, getting like squatted by like a 5'5" woman, like someone's going to pull out their iPhone. Sorry.
Yeah. In his defense, though, I highly doubt Liam Cohen or the Jags have a policy that you're not allowed to get squatted by a woman. So how could he have known?
That's going to be the new you can't play basketball in contracts.
Yeah. They're going to have to add that. My takeaways from the game, I'll pat you right back on the back for the Parker Washington pick. I mean, he's phenomenal. He is actually a legitimately very good NFL wide receiver. And then just to kind of echo what you were saying about Josh Allen, like, I don't care how bad this Bills team is. Not that they're bad, but I mean, they definitely have some holes on this roster. It doesn't matter. When you have Josh Allen, you will always have a chance, especially with no Mahomes in the playoffs this year. So the Bills definitely have their Super Bowl hopes alive right now.
100%. Let's move on to the 4:00 game on Sunday, 49ers Eagles. I had 49ers. You had Eagles. My big player to watch was Juwan Jennings. I said he was going to score a touchdown. Let's give me half credit. He threw one. But let's give you full credit on your Dallas Goedert pick. 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 in the air. Give me your initial thoughts on this game. I don't know about you. I was going in and out because I was heading to the game, but I did get to catch pretty much the entire second half.
Yeah, same here. I was sort of in and out as we were both going to the night game, but caught as much of it as I could. Dallas Goedert was great. He was maybe my favorite play of the weekend, so it was good to see him get in the end zone a couple times. The Eagles are still broken offensively. I picked the Eagles, as you said, was definitely wrong. I thought that they would play better, playoff game. They have all the talent on paper. The 49ers defense is banged up. And, you know, we saw flashes, but it wasn't consistent and it still just seemed wrong. It still just seemed broken. I think they're going to have to make some changes next season. And let's give Kyle Shanahan his flowers. He's a mastermind. I mean, the most injured team in football, maybe, and they're still winning games. They're now in the divisional round. So many injuries. And Kyle Shanahan, actually, I saw yesterday, every single season he's been with the 49ers where they've made the playoffs, he's made the NFC title game. So, yeah, shout out him.
My takeaways from this game, CMC is so good. That's just like, I just had to say that again, obligatory CMC praise. And then I talked about this. I can't stand watching this Eagles game. I feel like I was a little hard on the way I conveyed that about Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is talented, but I think, like you said, this Eagles system is broken. I think they need to clean out house with this offensive staff. This stat was unbelievable, though, just to like encapsulate the entire Eagles passing attack this season. This is from @DanteCapFlem on Twitter. Juwan Jennings had more completed passes over 15 air yards, 1, in that game than Jalen Hurts, who attempted 5. What just an absolute mess.
That must have been like plus 45,000 going into the game. That is horrible. Just no other word for it.
I had to give that my best moment of the game. Easy. The passing touchdown. That was so electric. Took me back to the most recent Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl. I believe that was 58.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very similar play. Honestly, a dot. Like,
Absolute dot.
If Brock Purdy made that throw, I'd be like, oh my God, what a throw.
Brock Purdy, you ever heard of Wally Pipp?
That is probably the best play of the game. I'll just say, speaking of Brock Purdy, also just his last drive, just ice in his veins, like needing a score.
You know what we should call him? Like the Iceman?
Oh, that could be pretty good. I don't think it's taken yet. I haven't heard anyone else call it that.
I haven't heard anybody call anybody that.
Brock Purdy, Iceman, that last drive, touchdown to McCaffrey, his second receiving of the game. That was incredible to watch.
My surprise of the game was Demarcus Robinson legacy game. Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, the first drive alone, I think he had 2 catches for, I don't know, I don't have the stat sheet in front of me, but it was like probably like 30, 40 yards the first drive.
Yeah, his first one was 47 yards, I believe.
Yeah, so
it's so crazy. Funny too, because like, you know, Kittle goes down, and so if you're box score watching, you're kind of like, oh, Kittle went down, they need to get some more weapons involved. Demarcus Robinson steps up, but like you said, it was right off the bat, the first play of the game.
Yeah, that was unexpected to say the least.
What surprised you from this one?
For me, you mentioned the Kittle injury. Horrible play to watch. You can just see his Achilles like a rubber band. Just, you hate to see it. You hope it's not the end of his career because he is still so freaking good when healthy. But obviously at his age, all the injuries, you kind of wonder. But I'm just so surprised the Niners were so resilient that it didn't matter. And they kept scoring and they were able to win the game. Throwing the ball to Jake Tunges, and Kyle Juszczyk was getting super involved after the Kittle injury. That was a great
play by him.
He's good.
Catch down the sideline and cut in. Like, yeah, he's so good. Did you see that stat that he's been fullback 1 in fantasy for the past 11 years?
That is absurd, but at the same time, it doesn't even surprise me because he's the only fullback that catches passes and they design plays for.
I take him out the 101 in my fullback premium league every year.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I mean, if you don't get him, you're pretty much cooked. Toast. You're just cooked.
Yeah, Kittle injury was heartbreaking. Every time you see a guy go down with something like that in the postseason, it reminded me, as a Celtics fan, of Tatum last year, and you're just like, well, that could be our season, and that could be next season. And so 49ers get a win with a little bit of a dark cloud over it. What was your big takeaway from this one?
Mine is just don't bet against Kyle Shanahan before the Super Bowl, but always bet against him in it. Obviously, over 3 in the Super Bowl as a head coach or offensive coordinator. But yeah, if he's in the playoffs, you can't bet against him. He's one of the best in the game. I was the idiot that picked the Eagles in this one. And then I was like, why did I just take Sirianni over Shanahan? So yeah, that's probably my biggest takeaway. And then just to reiterate, the Eagles absolutely need change, especially at OC, the offensive staff. They kind of need to redo basically what they did a couple of years ago after losing Wildcard Weekend, and then they brought in Kellen Moore. So they're going to have to bring in somebody else.
Yeah. My note was just without Kittle, it's going to be interesting to see, and I think we'll talk about this a lot more on Thursday's episode about who steps up here and what this offense looks like. CMC is a game breaker. Obviously, you're going to get him involved, but any defense is going to be ready for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, he's basically all they got now. I had a friend of both of ours said during the game yesterday, which is so true. It's the Niners have to pick. They can only have McCaffrey or everyone else. That's basically how it works.
And usually you just pick McCaffrey.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's get into the final game and the reason why my voice is gone and I feel like garbage this morning, but so worth it. Patriots Chargers. Patriots win 16-3. Both of us had the Pats by about 2 scores, so right on the nose there. My initial thoughts on the game, the defense was so genuinely fun to watch. 2 first half drives within the 5-yard line in the first half and allowing 3 total points is absolutely incredible.
Absurd.
I think a huge narrative here was Drake May playing against above 500 teams, now playing in his first postseason game. How's he going to handle it? Struggles a little bit in the first half. We had a fumble, an interception. Then the second half, we have the Hooper overthrow that was, I think his mental clock was kind of winding down and he was just letting it go. But I thought he settled in so well in the fourth quarter when it counted and when it was time to take the kill shot. He nailed it.
Yeah, obviously, as a biased Patriots fan, that game rocked. I think objectively, most people would say it was probably the worst game of the weekend, but that's such a high bar. Like, every game was so good this weekend, and then we'll see what happens tonight. A huge note I had is Chargers defense is the best the Pats have seen all year, the best Drake May's seen all year. Give them their credit. They did hold Drake May to just 16 points. Really, the receivers struggled to get open downfield. Like, they were just not getting separation. So the Chargers defense is super legit. It's just they could not get it done offensively at all.
Yeah. I agree. It's scary because like my pick right now is that we're going to see Houston win tonight and it's going to be Patriots Texans next week. And it's like, this was a good test. This is a really good defense and you weren't perfect. You hit some adversity, but you still pulled it out. And so like they got their work cut out for them if it is Houston next week. If it's Pittsburgh, like we'll see in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I agree.
What was your best moment of the game?
For me, it's Milton Williams calling game. That sack,
same.
just the quick swim, which by the way, why did they call a play action pass on 4th and 9? Like no one is biting on the Kamani Vidal play action pass.
That whole last drive was like so mind-boggling to me. Like it felt like they were like stat padding. I'm like, what are we doing picking up like dink and dunk 4-yard plays? And then like the sense of urgency getting back to the line, like to me was not there. It's like, oh great, the Chargers just marched 30 yards on us, but they drained like what, 2.5 minutes of clock?
Yeah, I'm sure you were doing the same thing at the game. I was just going tick, 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 tick. I mean, the Patriots were like, yeah, sure, take that 6-yard completion. Nope, not a problem. Take it. And then a play action pass was strange. But Milton Williams, oh my God. That's why you pay that man. That's why you go out in free agency and you pay him big money because he makes plays like that. He did it last year in the Super Bowl and just an incredible play late in the game yesterday. And also honorable mention, the Killavon Chason strip sack. That was also awesome.
They were getting after Herbert last night. Poor
Second
Justin
half
Herbert.
especially.
Like, I know how badly you want to win, but God, you got to have it in the back of your mind. Like, this might not be too bad. Hitting Cancun, getting a breather. Like,
oh no, I have to go to Cancun with Madison Beer. Oh no, this sucks.
Yeah, what a horrible life that Justin Herbert has. I think we kind of hit what surprised us. I think it was the defense. Just the defense stepped up and was so incredible. But what was your like broader takeaway from this one as you look at like next round?
I think Patriots offense, I am a little bit worried as a Patriots fan. They haven't played too many elite defenses this year, and they really struggled against the Chargers. Obviously, if they play the Texans, that's an even bigger test. So that concerns me. But what does give me hope from the Patriots' perspective is they're getting guys back healthy, and it showed defensively. Like the Chargers could not run the ball, which is something we talked about in the last episode. We both didn't think they would be able to, and they really couldn't. And then the first half, the Patriots weren't generating pressure, which was super concerning against this beat up Chargers offensive line. But the second half was a different story. They were generating a ton of pressure. They were sending more blitzes, safety blitzes, corner blitzes. I saw Marcus Jones on, I think, at least 2 different plays, blitz off the edge, linebacker stunts, and that was really manufacturing a lot of pressure. So that's something I could see them doing next week. But yeah, I mean, this year is so wide open in general, and I think the Patriots, despite some offensive struggles last night, proved that they're absolutely a legitimate contender, like most teams that are remaining.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think next week is going to be really, really interesting to see if the defense can follow up that performance with something similar. All right, that is it for our instant reactions. I was going to go over our set the lines, but we do have one guy remaining, Aaron Rodgers. You finished 2-1. I am 2-0 at the moment, but I have Aaron Rodgers over 13 points tonight, so we'll see how that finishes. I did want to point this out. You had over 18.5 points for Drake May, and he finished with 18.32. That was the only one you got wrong.
You set a mean line, Mitch. You set
I
a
was
very
like, oh my
mean line.
God, Vegas, you got my number. Let me know.
I set Rodgers pretty low too, just trying to bait you to take the over, and you did. But I'm really invested in the Texans defense tonight, so I don't.
I'm gonna be popping champagne when Rodgers has like 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, and it's like somehow enough for 13 points.
Yeah, it could be.
All right, that was it for our NFL instant reactions from Wildcard Weekend. Before we leave, we will be doing one more quick fantasy segment. We're going to look at a lot of guys who are performing great down the stretch and determine if they are breaking out or breaking down. All right, Mello, give me your first player. We looked at guys that in the back half of the season really outperformed what they were doing in the first half and may have had a little bit of a slower start in weeks 1 through 8.
Yeah, I'm going to start with a guy on a team we were talking about earlier in the episode, and that's Christian Watson. He was one of the 4 receivers to catch a touchdown pass on Saturday. After returning from the torn ACL injury, he became an integral part of the Packers offense. He was really a league winner. I know Mitch, a league that we're both in, the person who had Christian Watson, started him in the championship, started him a lot down the stretch, won the championship. So he was a league winner. He had 611 yards and 6 touchdowns through 10 games. Had so much big playability this season, which we really hadn't seen consistently since his rookie year. And he was just great down the stretch. However, his return did align very similarly with Tucker Kraft's injury. And Tucker Kraft was really like the focal point of this passing attack prior to his ACL injury. So that opened up a ton of targets when he went down. And Watson is on a 1-year deal going into next year. So he'll be there, but they also figure to have pretty much their full complement of guys back with the exception of Romeo Doubs. He is set to hit free agency. We'll see if the Packers bring him back, but he plays a really different role from Christian Watson anyways. But they'll have Matthew Golden back and the other rookie and Savion Williams. And then, of course, Jaden Reed, who we talked about earlier in the episode. So there are still plenty of mouths to feed in that offense. And then Matthew Golden, who I just mentioned, theoretically should get a ton more involved, you would think, especially after this big playoff game. He finally showed that he is so talented, which we knew, it just hadn't really come to fruition yet. He's a first-round pick. You really would think that they want to give him an opportunity. With all that said, if Christian Watson ends up being priced as Green Bay's wide receiver 1 going into next year, which I certainly think is possible given how great he was down the stretch, he's easily a breaking down in that category for me. Still has the big playability, but has that injury history, crowded offense. I don't want to read too much into this big stretch by him at the end of the season, so I don't really view him as a breakout.
I think that's a great point, and I think that something I haven't thought about as much is what you said about aligning with Tucker Kraft's injury. And like you said, like they gave up like valuable resources to go get Matthew Golden. They're not just going to not find a way to work him into the offense next year, even if Romeo Doubs is gone. So I think this is a great pick. Like you said, a lot of these are going to be dependent on where ADP shakes out.
Right.
But this feels like one of those chasing a guy who, so I hate being the touchdown regression guy, but like 6 touchdowns in his last 10 games. Do we feel confident that Christian Watson's going to do that again next year? I don't know.
Yeah, probably not. Possible, but probably not.
I am going to go with somebody on the opposite side of the ball from Saturday's game. I'm going to talk about Colston Loveland, which I don't know if there's anybody who's getting talked about more right now in like the dynasty space. He was drafted as the tight end 12, finished as the tight end 14. So you look at that and you're like, okay, why are we talking about him? That's because through weeks 1 through 8, he was the tight end 51. And then from weeks 9 through 18 and week 17, whichever your championship's in, he was the tight end 2. I'm going to conditionally say he is breaking out. And here are the conditions. Well, let me tell you why. In the second half of the season, he was ranked 8th amongst all tight ends in PFF's receiving grade, 3rd amongst tight ends in targets, and 2nd in yards. I love Luther Burden. I love Rome Odunze. I don't think that there's a lot of consistency and continuity game to game in who Caleb's trusting in that wide receiver room. DJ Moore, I don't know when DJ Moore is going to be catching touchdowns or like throwing a fit on the sidelines. So I'm looking at the ADP for next year. Early rankings, Colston Loveland is slated in as the tight end 5. It is a little rich for my blood, but if you believe in him and you believe in the talent, I think there's an opportunity here that like he's getting like insane target shares. I mean, 2nd amongst tight ends, I'm sure you can imagine, behind only Trey McBride. And like, where does the tight end 5 usually go in drafts? You usually got your guys like Trey McBride and Brock Bowers who are in rounds like 2 and 3. I don't think you're probably going to have to go after Colston Loveland until round like 5, 6. And then the other interesting thing was he's at tight end 5. Tyler Warren's at tight end 6, which I'll just give a free pick in here for breaking down. Tyler Warren already broke down in the back half of the year, and I don't have a ton of confidence in that quarterback situation versus Colston Loveland's got the Iceman. And so I'm going to trust Colston Loveland. So I'm going to say breaking out. That the reason I said conditionally, if he starts rising up past that and all of a sudden we're drafting it like Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, Colston Loveland, then I'm going to pump the brakes.
Yeah, I actually wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said. If you didn't pick Colston Loveland to talk about, I would have. I agree. I'm all in next year, conditionally, of course. Like I wouldn't spend the capital or even close to the capital you'd spend on Trey McBride for him next year. But yeah, I think he is a very clear breakout. And since I can't have him, I will pivot to his teammate. You mentioned him. We love talking about these Bears and Packers today, apparently. I'm going to talk about Luther Burden. He was their 2nd round pick this year, Loveland being their 1st round pick. Burden actually on the season did outperform his ADP. He was going as the wide receiver 59, finished as the wide receiver 50. Didn't really feel like that for the first half of the year especially. But it really was the second half of the year where he hit his stride. Before week 10, Luther Burden averaged under 16 offensive snaps per game. His most in any single game over that stretch was 19. From week 10 on, he averaged 36 offensive snaps per game, and his fewest in any game during that stretch was 26, so 7 more than his most the first half of the season. He got super involved in the offense. They started playing Zacchaeus left. I mean, part of that was like injuries to Rome Odunze. But clearly Ben Johnson started to build a trust with him and he became a bigger part of the offense. He was a 2nd round pick, like I mentioned, by this very regime. And similar to how you're buying Loveland because he's got the Iceman, I think in general, Ben Johnson will continue to evolve this offense. He'll start to trust Caleb Williams more, develop Caleb Williams. I think they're going to open up the passing game a bit more, which this year they have been a very run heavy team. I think that'll start to shift a little bit. So I'm just kind of buying this offense as a whole. And also, there's pretty credible speculation that DJ Moore will not be with Chicago next year. He's still under contract, I think, through like 2029 or something. But he's somebody who's probably likely going to get moved. So that'll open even up more targets. So with all of that said, I kind of view Luther Burden as a breakout as well. Loveland is the guy I prefer for sure, especially at tight end, which is a more difficult position to fill in fantasy. But I do like the opportunity that Luther Burden has for next year. Similar to you, obviously it's somewhat conditional. We'll see where his ADP gets. Like if it gets anywhere close to some of the 2nd year receivers this year, like the Malik Neighbors and the Brian Thomas, like that's way too rich for me if he somehow shoots up even close to that high.
Do you want me to read you right now who he's around in ADP rankings?
Let's do that. That's perfect.
2026. Right now, he is sandwiched at wide receiver 23 between Terry McLaurin and Mike Evans. If you're staring down Terry McLaurin, Luther Burden, and Mike Evans, do you take him there?
That is honestly probably a really good price point. I'm not super enthusiastic about it, but I feel good about it. Like if you take Luther Burden over either of those guys, I think that's a great shot to take. It honestly kind of similar to me based on that ADP there is like Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're very different players stylistically, but Amon-Ra was kind of similar. Very quiet first half of his rookie year. Second half of his rookie year, he was awesome. But he wasn't going in the first couple rounds in fantasy. He was probably going around that same range his second year. And then, of course, he was phenomenal, which not saying Luther Burden will be, but there's definitely a chance he is.
Let me make a callback here to our Hindsight's 2025 segment last episode where we talked about ambiguous running back rooms, wide receiver rooms. You look at Luther Burden at wide receiver 23, and then Rome Odunze is at wide receiver 32, which just leads you to think like, if Rome Odunze wasn't there, how much higher would Luther Burden be going? And if you're like in somebody in your shoes where you're feeling really confident in Luther Burden, like on paper, he could be even better than wide receiver 23. We're just in a situation where we don't know who the one is. And that's like kind of the exact type of guy we like to take a shot on.
100%. Ambiguous situations where it could go either way. I guess that's sort of a Rome Odunze endorsement as well. If he's the one right now going later, obviously so much will change over the next few months. But yeah, just in general, I mean, we've talked about it. You want good offenses, good quarterbacks. I'm buying pieces of this offense.
I completely agree. Ben Johnson's got me believing. All right, let me jump to one of the Sunday quarterbacks, 1 p.m. Let's talk about Trevor Lawrence, the squat god. Drafted as the QB 20, this one's more impressive than Colston Loveland. Finished as the QB 4. Of quarterbacks that started more than 5 games, he ranked top 5 in the back half of the season in offensive and passing grades from PFF, and QB 2 in total fantasy points behind only Josh Allen from week 9 on. I am calling this a breakout. Normally, I would probably say this was some weird outlier season and the schedule or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I do think Liam Cohen has unlocked something with Trevor Lawrence. And when I went to go check Trevor Lawrence's ADP for next season, I literally had to like triple check. He's going right now slated as the QB 11. I don't understand that price tag at all. I can't name 10 quarterbacks that like, and maybe it's recency bias from watching the past few weeks, but like, I can't name 10 fantasy quarterbacks I'd rather have than Trevor Lawrence. So I'm like, for best ball, you're drafting him as like a really late quarterback. If you're doing like a 3 QB build in redraft, he's probably your backup QB. I'm absolutely hammering breaking out on this. Conditionally, of course, if we get to August and now he's moved up and he's like QB 6, I'm back out. But at QB 11 price tag, this is like a full-on hammer for me.
Yeah, and I think a key with it is we've seen him run the ball so much more this year and so effectively. We talk about it all the time, these mobile quarterbacks, how important they are. And that's become a big part of his game and a Liam Cohen offense. Yeah, I've always been a Trevor Lawrence hater, and I will be the first one to admit it. But I can't argue with that, Mitch. I mean, I think he could end up being a really good value next season.
Yeah.
And then that brings me to my last pick here. We haven't talked about any running backs yet, so let me talk about someone who's actually playing in the game tonight, and that is Kenneth Gainwell. Sort of completely off the fantasy radar in draft season. I don't think people cared. They thought Jalen Warren would lead the backfield, and then Caleb Johnston was the rookie who a lot of people were excited about. That amounted to absolutely nothing. Kenneth Gainwell has been great. Yeah, I mean, he was getting drafted as a running back 84. He finished as the running back 24 in full point PPR. Most of that damage coming down the stretch, averaging a whopping 17.75 fantasy points per game from week 11 on. I talk about a league winner, someone you could have gotten off waivers. He had 44 receptions over that stretch. He was super involved in the passing game, obviously the running game as well. He was great this year. Not exactly, but almost in a weird way. Kind of reminds me of that random like Cordarrelle Patterson year in his career when he was great, super involved in the pass game. But there's a lot of uncertainty going to the next year, and I'm sort of inclined to put him in the breakdown category, although admittedly that could change depending on how this offseason shakes out. But right now, that uncertainty just has me nervous. He is an impending free agent. He could go elsewhere. We don't know what situation that would be. for his sake, from a fantasy perspective, hopefully be a team where he would be very involved in the offense, at least as a third down back. But it's far from a guarantee. And even if he does stay in Pittsburgh, which I would assume they'd like to have him back, given how much they used him, this Pittsburgh team I don't think will be very similar next year. I would assume the quarterback will be different. Rodgers is probably going to retire, and he's kind of a check down king, or at least he has been late in his career, late with the Packers. Even last year, depth of target wasn't very high. So, that's something that concerns me. If it's a different quarterback, could be a different offensive coordinator. If Arthur Smith isn't back, which I think is definitely in the realm of possibilities, especially if they lose to the Texans tonight. So definitely something we'll have to monitor throughout the offseason because situation matters so much and things could change. But for somebody who is so dominant down the stretch, I'm just really not excited about him next year right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's a great point on Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith leaves the building and I'm probably out on any running back twos.
Yeah, or tight end twos.
That's his bread and butter.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with that pick. He's going as the wide receiver 45 in half PPR right now. Excuse me, the running back 45.
Feels like a wide receiver.
Feels like a wide receiver, exactly. That's probably going to shift. Like that one's one that, like you said, like there's so many contingencies. So I don't even really feel comfortable talking about that ADP like it's like real.
Right, I agree.
So I'm going to agree in your camp and say that's absolutely a breaking down. My final pick of the episode before we wrap everything up, I'm going to talk about the wide receiver 2 from week 11 on, Michael Wilson. I'm going to say the same thing that got me in trouble in the middle of the season when I picked him up and didn't play him when he had his huge 40-point breakout game. But I'm going to double down and say the production is just a little bit too much of an outlier for me. This season, the Cardinals boasted the highest pass rate over expectation, and they face injuries all over the place in the running back room. I think that's why you didn't have James Conner, and then you had Trey Benson get banged up, and then like Michael Carter's getting cut and picked back up, and like of course they're not relying that heavy on the running game, and they were just letting Jacoby sling it. You also had Marvin Harrison Jr. out for a handful of games. I don't need to talk about how I feel about Marvin Harrison Jr. I think most people know how I feel about him. That being said, you invested a 4th overall pick in him just 3 years ago. You're not going to give up on him. There's going to be a new coaching staff coming in. Obviously, Jonathan Gannon got let go just about a week ago. And I think that to think that this is going to get replicated again is just like batshit insane. That being said, obviously, do you have to draft him as the wide receiver too? No. He's going as the wide receiver 38 off the board, but I just don't think that you're going to see as much offense coming from the Cardinals this season, like for receivers. And if it does come, like Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get a way bigger piece of the pie than he got this season. So for me, this is like absolutely a breaking down. If he moves down the ADP rankings, like maybe you could talk me into it, but he's actually a guy that I'd stake my rep on the fact that he's going to be going higher than wide receiver 38 come August.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance of that. And it pains me because I was enjoying the Michael Wilson ride while it lasted, but I agree. I think he'll be fantasy relevant for sure. I think he'll be part of the offense, all that. But like, you're definitely not going to get what you got down the stretch this year. And you're probably not going to get like even a big chunk of it, especially with what you said. Marvin Harrison, like they're going to probably hire a coach whose job it is to figure out Marvin Harrison Jr. in this offense and build it around him. Trey McBride obviously demands a ton of targets. The pie is going to be smaller next year because they're going to run the ball more. Everything you said, I agree with. So we'll see how that ADP shifts, if at all. But right now, that's not somebody I'm like targeting.
Let's play the ADP game again. Guys going around him. How about right next to each other, Marvin Harrison Jr. or Michael Wilson? Who are you drafting?
Oh, I hate
you know, let me give you another because I'm not drafting either of them.
Yeah.
Michael Pittman or Wan'Dale Robinson?
Oof.
I know Malik Neighbors is coming back. I'm probably taking Wan'Dale over him. I'm probably taking Pittman, even though the quarterback situation's in flux right now. That's obviously going to depend on like what shakes out, but
yeah, I agree. I'm taking either over Michael Wilson. Wan'Dale, there's weird rumors the Giants could bring somebody else in free agency. I don't really think they need to. I think Wan'Dale's good. But we'll see if they do. And then, yeah, I definitely would take either of those guys over either of the Cardinals.
100%. Well, that was it for our instant reaction as well as breaking out or breaking down. Thank you for watching. We will be back Thursday morning with a brand new divisional round preview. I'm actually so excited to jump into these divisional round games. But if you haven't yet, make sure to like the video, drop a comment what you thought about the Super Wildcard Weekend games. What was your biggest takeaway? And then hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified every time we drop a brand new episode. Anything you got left to say, Mello?
Nothing except thank you all for bearing with me with my hoarse voice from screaming "Let's go defense" all night last night. It's been a pleasure talking football more this morning.
We will see you guys on Thursday.